From the author of Spinsterella, the strange and unusual romance and spellbound, a darker shade of black comes the legendary Magic Children. Pick up the conclusions of the Spinsterella trilogy in paperback and e-readers this Halloween. In a previous video I talked about creepers, these guys who go to goth bars, goth clubs, and goth events not because they want to enjoy the scene, but because they want to pick up a woman who is a goth. And when it comes down to your creepers, they are what we call in the manosphere and the black community a simp. And again, a simp is a guy who places himself in a submissive position in the hopes of getting the attention and approval of women. And when it comes down to your simp, these guys often see the world through rose-colored glasses. And because they see the world through rose-colored glasses, they have a distorted picture of people like goths who participate in alternative lifestyles. And because they have this distorted picture of goth women and the alternative lifestyle they participate in, they twist the image of alternative women like goths and turn it into some sort of sexual fantasy or sexual fetish. And because they see this woman as a sexual fantasy or a sexual fetish, these guys will approach a woman not thinking about what they're saying or how what they're saying is extremely offensive to a woman in the subculture. I've heard many goth women say that they have to deal with guys who say things like, "I bet you're into some kinky stuff," just right off the bat. And they wouldn't say that to a regular woman, but they'll say this to a goth woman, and they'll think that this is perfectly fine. No, it's not fine at all. It's extremely rude, extremely disrespectful, and it shows how sick this individual actually is to even bring up such a thing in a conversation. One, you are sexualizing this woman, and two, you are projecting a stereotype onto this woman that isn't true at all. And this is the big problem with these simps. They see the world through rose-colored glasses, and because they see the world through rose-colored glasses, they project fantasies on women in the subculture. And again, these are their own twisted fantasies, and many women in the subculture, they have to understand that there's nothing wrong with you, there's something wrong with him. Because he's the one with this sick idea of what people in the subculture are like, and this is his own twisted idea about what women in the subculture are like. In his twisted mind, he believes because a woman is participating in an alternative lifestyle that she is more sexually easy or sexually loose, and he believes that he can get an easier opportunity at sex with a woman in the subculture, and that's why he's saying all of these things to her, not understanding that he's the one with a serious problem, and he's showing the world that really he's the one who is the sexual deviant. And every goth girl has to understand out here that he's the one who's the sexual deviant, and he's trying to project that onto you. And what you have to do is you have to have the self-esteem to not take anything that he is saying at any sort of value, because everything he is saying is reflecting on him, but it's not a reflection of you. You are who you are, expressing yourself the way you want to express yourself, and there's nothing wrong with that. The problem is his perception of the world, and you can't take that personally because it's his perception that is the one that is completely messed up. Anyone who knows the subculture and knows the scene knows why people dress the way that they do. If you see somebody wearing a corset who is goth, you know that they're wearing that as part of their outfit. There is nothing sexual about that. And if you know that somebody's wearing some high heel boots that are really tall, they're not wearing that to be talk about something related to BDSM. No, that's just part of goth fashion. And anyone would know this if they understood what the subculture is all about. But your simp doesn't want to know what the subculture is all about. He wants to fit a woman who is a part of the subculture into his rose-colored fantasy, and you can't allow him to do that to you, because with these kind of guys, they don't want to see reality. They don't want to see the real people of the subculture. They only want to see the subculture from the framework of the fantasy that they have in their mind. These guys don't want to learn anything about the subculture. They, again, only see people who are alternative as being more sexually easy and sexually loose, and a chance at getting an opportunity at sex. And that has nothing to do with you. Again, it has something to do with his sickness and his depravity, and you can't take that on you, because that has nothing to do with you. That has something to do with him. So I see so many women in the subculture, and they get really defensive when they talk about these creepers, but you have to understand them, and you have to understand their behavior, and you have to understand that they come from a really twisted place. And when it comes down to these guys, when they make those statements like that, it shows us that they are extremely, what we call in the black community, thirsty. These guys, they're all up in their emotions, they're all up in their feelings, and they don't know how to process the idea of talking to an alternative woman, and they don't know how to relate to an alternative woman. So what they do is they try to find the least common denominator that they think they can find as relatable. And that is to sexualize a person. This is something I've actually run into myself when I was in junior high school and high school, so I know all about what these guys are trying to do. They can't relate to you on a human level, so they try to bring it down to a sexual level, and you can't let them do that. When these guys try to do this type of stuff, this is where you have to hard check them, because this guy is being disrespectful, this guy is being rude, his behavior is completely out of line, and you have to set a hard boundary for when these guys start making statements like, oh, you must be into some BDSM, you must be into some kinky sex, because this is not what a normal person has a conversation with a goth person. A normal person who has a conversation with a goth, they're going to talk about the music, they're going to talk about the fashion, they're going to talk about different bands, they're going to talk about art, they're going to talk about literature, and they're going to find things that they can relate to on a personal level and a humanized level, and they're going to share their interests with you. The creepy guys don't want to share any interests. All they want to do, again, is try to fit you into their fantasy, and you can't take that personally, because you know why you became a goth, you know why you wanted to be a part of the scene, and you know what the scene is all about, and you can't let this guy, shake you or shake your reasons for being a part of the scene. This guy, his ideas about what the scene is are completely twisted, and there's nothing you can do about these kind of guys except check them and then keep it moving. If these guys, when you're having a conversation with them, can't talk about anything else other than that, the best thing to do is to walk away from them, because when you're dealing with this kind of guy, in many cases, he's extremely dense, he's not going to get it, and there's no real reason to even sit there and try to explain it to him, because you know why you became a goth, you know why you want to be a part of the scene. This guy doesn't know anything, and he doesn't want to know anything. Again, all he wants to know is how he can fit you into his fantasy, and you need to just stay in reality, because in reality, you are who you are beautiful for who you are, you have value for being who you are, and if this guy can't accept you as a person, then he shouldn't be a part of your life, and you shouldn't even be thinking about him at all. If this guy does further continue to engage you, what you can do with a creeper is, again, alert security, or when you're in a bar in a club, or if you're on the street, try to contact law enforcement to go deal with this kind of individual. If you'd like to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon by clicking the link in the description box. And if you want to try some of my fiction, you can go to Amazon.com by clicking the link in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.